Chapter 9. Rejoice not, O Israel, for joy as other people. For thou hast gone a-whoring from thy God. Thou hast loved reward upon every corn floor. The floor and the winepress shall not feed them, and the new wine shall fail in her. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. They shall not offer wine offerings to the Lord, neither shall they be pleasing unto him. Their sacrifices shall be unto them as the bread of mourners. All that eat thereof shall be polluted, for their bread for their soul shall not come into the house of the Lord. What will ye do in the solemn day and in the day of the feast of the Lord? For lo, they are gone because of destruction. Egypt shall gather them up, Memphis shall bury them, the pleasant places for their silver, nettles shall possess them, thorns shall be in their tabernacles. The days of visitation are come. The days of recompense are come. Israel shall know it. The prophet is a fool. The spiritual man is mad for the multitude of thine iniquity and the great hatred. The watchman of Ephraim was with my God, but the prophet is a snare of a fowler in all his ways, and hatred in the house of his God. They have deeply corrupted themselves, as in the days of Gibeah. Therefore he will remember their iniquity. He will visit their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe of the fig tree at her first time. But they went to Baal Peor, and separated themselves unto that shame, and their abominations were according as they loved. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird from the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception. Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them, that there shall not be a man left. Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Give them, O Lord, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them, for the wickedness of their doing. I will drive them out of mine house. I will love them no more. All their princes are revolters. Ephraim is smitten, their root is dried up. They shall bear no fruit, yea, though they bring forth, yet will I slay even the beloved fruit of their womb. My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be as wanderers among the nations. Chapter 9 has a fair bit of imagery in it. I can understand why some people would be very confused, because here he says in verse 7, the prophet is a fool. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about the false prophets that are in the northern kingdom. They built a temple, sort of, what they called a temple, in Mount Gerizim, which was in the capital Samaria, and so that the people would not go down to the temple in Jerusalem and worship. That way they didn't have people that still had any influence in northern Israel actually having anything to do with people in Judah. And so here he's talking about these false prophets that are living in Samaria, serving as the people and doing the idol worship and the other corrupt things in the temple at Mount Gerizim. And these people were basically saying that all is well, don't have to worry about it, none of the enemies will ever come against us. Oh sure, Assyria did capture them and took them all away. Sure thing, these false prophets knew exactly what they weren't talking about. In verses 10 through 13, he uses some images. He talks about grapes in the wilderness and figs in their first ripening. Now, if you're wandering in the wilderness and all of a sudden you come across some grapevines, that is cause for great joy. You got some sweetness, some juiciness, something. I mean, you're in the wilderness. As far as the Jews were concerned, that was a desert. We're not talking about an agricultural wonderland there. We're talking about a desert. And to come across grapevines in the desert that actually had some grapes on them was cause for enormous celebration. And the figs in their first ripening were the prime figs of the year. And so these this imagery is saying that Israel was choice. Just absolutely incredible source of pleasure to the Lord in the very beginning. But they had chosen to make a covenant and then broke it. And they had turned away from God. So it was impossible for God to continue to bless them because they had broken the laws and the covenants. Now, the imagery of Baal Peor is basically saying that these people sinned a great sin. They committed idolatry, immoral things. Baal Peor worship was pornographic at the very, very least, if it didn't involve human sacrifice, which occasionally did. Actually frequently did. In another part it says Ephraim's glory will fly away, and basically that means that they were going to have no conception, no pregnancies, no childbirth. The land was going to be desolate. There would be nothing there. There'd be none of them there. None of the Hebrew people that were in northern Israel would be there. There'd be no pregnant women there. There'd be no babies born there of the Jews. They were of the Hebrews. They were all gone. These people just didn't listen. It says a little next verse, they will have children but be bereaved. Well, you can't be bereaved unless people die. And so what he's saying here is that even though you already have children, even though you're not going to have any more children, there aren't going to be any other children born into these groups of people here, that the older children that you have will die. You will be bereaved. You might have them now, but you aren't going to have them for long. Now, he talks about Ephraim and Tyrus. Tyrus, which is also known as Tyre, was a city that was famed for its wealth and all the blessings and favors and all the circumstances around it that made it a fabulous place. And Ephraim had been chosen by God because of the birthright to receive many wonderful blessings. And that would have made probably Tyre look pretty sick by comparison. But because of the unwillingness of Ephraim, the hard-heartedness of Ephraim, the insistence of Ephraim upon worshiping idols and doing things for false gods, she deprived herself of all of the blessings that she could have had, and eventually was carried off captive into Assyria and then vanished into the Gentile world, never to be known of until the Lord selects these people, finds them in the last days, their descendants in the last days.